All right, well, we are back. The San Antonio Spurs are off to a 20-5 start. That is good for the second best record in the NBA, but where do they need to improve? Welcome to the Project Spurs Roundtable, powered by Project Spurs. I am your host, Steven Anderson, along with Aaron Prine and Winston Harris. All right, so guys, I don't know if you heard, but the Golden State Warriors are off to a good start. I don't know if you guys have heard about that yet.
Warriors? Who are the Warriors?
No, but we're here to talk about the San Antonio Spurs, and the Spurs also are off to a very good start. Defensively is where we've seen this team improve, Aaron. What do you like about this team's defense?
Well, they're more fluid. They're not as rigid. I mean, losing Thiago Splitter is a big loss for them. But when you bring in LaMarcus Aldridge, who there was a lot of questions about his defensive ability, you learn at how agile he is, how fluid they can move all over the floor. He can switch on the pick and roll. Same thing with Duncan. They can switch in and out, and you almost have no loss. I mean, they're basically the same guy. Of course, Danny Green defensively, he's having one of the best. He's not shooting the ball very well, but he's having one of the best defensive seasons ever. Kawhi Leonard, his game has ascended. Parker, there's always a question about how much of a liability he is on defense. Not so much this year. And then, of course, even though when you think of the bench, you don't really think of a whole lot of athletic guys. You have guys who put in a lot of work. David West, he's always been known as a very gritty defender. And then other guys, they're just constantly communicating and working together. Boris Diaw, Patty Mills, he's always a pest from baseline to baseline.
Definitely.
So when you look at this team defensively, there's no stop in the movement. I know when you think about Spurs basketball offensively for the last years, you think about movement. It's the same thing with defense. These guys never stop. Instead of having one or two guys defending like some pick and roll action, it's practically the whole team.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Winston, a lot of people are comparing the Spurs defense to their championship years, obviously holding teams below 90, below 80. Obviously with Atlanta on Saturday, they held them to below 80 as well. So what do you think of the defense? What do you like about it, and where do you see some areas where they might need to improve?
I mean, I can't actually call out any improvements that I can see right now. I think they're just legit 1 through 5. Even the second roster coming in there, they're just legit, no weaknesses. I don't see Patty, like you said, coming off the bench. Anybody coming off the bench is legit at guarding all areas, all facets of the floor. I feel like this is a historic defense that we're seeing here. They just have basically that trust. You can tell through the communication, through the pick and rolls and everything like that, that they can just match up with anybody, and I can't wait to see them go against Golden State.
You have the Spurs, who have obviously had a good season. Kawhi Leonard has on a tear this season. His opening game, he scored 30 points against the Oklahoma City Thunder in the opening night loss. Aaron, Kawhi Leonard, obviously turning into a superstar this season.
He is a superstar. He's not turning into one. He already is one.
Official.
So, it's amazing to think about where Kawhi Leonard has come from. When he came out of San Diego State, he was just a defender, and offensively, his game was kind of limited to the fast breaks, just getting out onto the break, rebounding and going. At first, he came into the league, he developed that jump shot from three-point range. Now he's got that mid-range game. He was never somebody you could really put the ball in his hands and tell him to create. He was never comfortable with it. He didn't know how to get his long frame and big shoulders, into the lanes. It was very awkward. And now when you watch him, he's so quick. And he's so efficient. His movements are very sharp. There's no wasted motion whatsoever. And he has become one of the most efficient and deadly two-way players in the NBA. I mean, if he doesn't, I know Durant is doing well statistically, and but Kawhi should be starting in the All-Star game this year. He deserves it.
Definitely. Just kind of piggyback on what he was saying with efficiency, I think that Kawhi has kind of jumped on and taken the role that kind of the big three as they kind of go out the last piece of their career. He's kind of taken on that role and just embraced the challenge of both sides of the floor, offensively and defensively. So I think we're just seeing kind of like the manifestation of what the big three were doing all in Kawhi.
You mentioned the leadership, Winston. How important is that leadership, obviously, when you have the big three who are towards the end of their careers? Kawhi Leonard just starting it. This is year 5 for him. How important is that for someone his age and his talent to be getting into that leadership role now? I
mean, it's so important. I mean, it kind of went at that seamless transition as Tony and Duncan and Manu go out. Somebody to take over and kind of keep going that theory, the thesis that Pop has been pushing on the Spurs, and kind of bringing LaMarcus into that. You kind of have that core now that you want to build on as the big three go out.
Some of where the Spurs do need to improve is Danny Green. Danny Green has not been playing as well as he has in seasons past. I had guys who tweeted me, Danny, should we trade him? All this stuff. Guys, calm down, calm down. But I mean, is it a concern, Aaron? Is it a concern how he's shooting?
We're over a quarter of the way through the season, and the shooting, his shooting woes have been consistent enough to where it does generate some concern. But it's not like his complete game has fallen off a cliff. He's one of the best defenders in the NBA. The tandem with him and Kawhi Leonard is incredible. That is the best wing defense in the NBA. And he's a good rebounder. He's a good team worker. Was a worker bee. And you can't just pull the cord on a guy who has shot 40% as a starter for the last 4 seasons from three-point range.
Definitely.
And he had the NBA Finals record for most threes. He set the team single season record in made threes, almost 200 made threes last season. Defenses have become a little bit more aware of him. They run him off the line a little bit more. But I think also the big issue is that the Spurs offense is completely new. It's not the offense of last few seasons and they're adding on to it. They're building something completely new, and he's struggling to really become efficient shooter in that. It'll happen.
Winston, you've mentioned, obviously, Aaron, you did mention, his defense and his shooting woes have happened, but Winston, he's been open for a lot of those shots. There's some shots where he just misses on things. So, do you think as more games get played, he'll improve like we see LaMarcus Aldridge improving?
Definitely. I think it's really just mental. I mean, a lot of shooters go through streaks. Danny's kind of been notorious. They call him icy hot. He's very streaky. So, I mean, I wouldn't buy too much into what's going on now. As long as they keep putting him in the positions that he's normally in and comfortable getting those shots off, they're going to fall. So.
Yeah, he's only had really one game where you kind of saw the Danny Green that we expect, and that was against Phoenix. If we get into late January and it hasn't come around, then I think the concerns become really legitimate.
All right. And finally, this past Friday, the Spurs played the Los Angeles Lakers, and Kobe Bryant made his penultimate visit to San Antonio, where he will be ending his career following this season. Guys, we have not talked about this yet. Kobe Bryant obviously ending his season. I want to get both of your thoughts on that. I'll give mine. Winston, I'll start with you this time.
I mean, the writing's been on the wall for a while now. I mean, you can't argue with Father Time. His body's been breaking down. Just the organization in general, the Lakers, there's really not much reason for Kobe to stay. So I think it's well due. I mean, the NBA is definitely going to miss him as just being a big ticket seller. But yeah, it's time. It's definitely time.
No one's had a bigger ego than Kobe, and he's not going out the way that he wants to go out. He's not going out guns a-blazing. He's not going to walk out with a championship. So what better way than to have everybody memorialize his last season? Goodwill tour, goodbye. Farewell. Here's a gift from every single team. He's making it about him. Not surprising. I do not deny how great he has been to the game. I do believe that he really did save the game in the 90s in that transition from the Michael Jordan era. They needed him for the marketing aspect of it. And
globalization.
Yeah, and the globalization of the game. He's been absolutely huge. But, like you said, the writing's on the wall. But it's not unlike Kobe to make it all about him, even though he's having one of the most historically awful seasons ever. And that team is in just such disarray. That franchise is it's horrible to see. I know Spurs fans don't really particularly care about it, but you do need that evil empire to be in good health in order to have that battle to be worth something.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I've always respected Kobe Bryant as an athlete. He's been one of the most premier players, in a recent memory. I mean, my generation, he was the Michael Jordan of our generation. He was a fantastic player. Obviously, in 2000 when he won his first title, he did have that that mentality of, okay, let's go three-peat, and they did. And I mean, I'm going to be sad to see him go. I don't know about you guys. I'm personally going to miss him.
I'm going to miss him. I'm not going to miss the ego part of it, but it was fantastic for the last 2 decades just watching that assassin just be out on the floor.
It really was. And I mean, obviously, Kobe, we're all going to miss him and wish him the best of luck in his retirement. I'm sure we'll see him on ESPN or something following the season. But that's all we have for this one, this episode of the Project Spurs Roundtable. Don't forget to go to projectspurs.com, news4sa.com, and kabb.com to get all of your news on the San Antonio Spurs. For Aaron Pry and Winston Harris, I'm Steven Anderson, and we will see you next time on the Project Spurs Roundtable.